Okay, morning, everybody. We're going to be going over exhibitions for today's office hours. This is a pretty like small number of fields, very simple part of the whole system. So it's not much that will be, super heavy, super fussy, anything like that. Let's see. Let's pop into an exhibitions thing. So you may have noticed, and you probably have noticed, that a lot of the time where it says occurrences, that actually is exhibitions. That's just the module that they used in it from Collective Access, and the change of the name didn't make it through everything. So if you're going under Find, you'll see exhibition. If you're looking here on the dashboard, like on account screen or something, it'll say occurrences. That's one of those things that's on my list to either have them change or me go through and change it. It's not super high priority to go through all and change it right now. While they're doing work on the system, I may have them do it just for simplification and clarification for people. But that's what this occurrence thing is, if you haven't just figured that out and used it already. I think I've got it in the manual to say occurrences, or to make that note, but hopefully it'll change it at some day. I'm just going to pop into, so I'm going to use, as I normally do, I'm going to use the sandbox, and then I'm going to use Fairfield's system. The sandbox, I can play around with. Fairfield, I just know that we have a lot more data in there to mess around with and look at. So popping into the sandbox, full screen, there we go. Looking at like the display, the spreadsheet kind of view, I think I've only got, just the default display on in this part. So right now it just has the identifier and the name. We'll pop into the first one and just kind of go through it. Click is a basic info screen with basic information like the, same as like the object modules and that kind of thing. Overall, in general, the exhibitions part of this, I like for tracking past exhibitions or tracking things that are currently up, that kind of thing. I honestly don't use it that much for planning out exhibitions. I'll use, like to start grouping objects together and items together, I'll use sets and put a bunch of records and items in sets versus trying to do it into the exhibition. Partially because when you look through here, so there's, on the first page, you have your exhibition ID number and your exhibition name. The exhibition name field is the full, long, lengthy, usually has a colon in it, exhibition title. And the exhibition ID number is whatever you need it to be in your institution. What I've done in Fairfield is usually put the year that it opened first, and I do a little dash, and I do usually what our in-house nickname for it is. Or just if we hadn't come up with an in-house nickname that we were using, I'll just do like 1 or 2 words from the full exhibition name, just to give it like a really quick reference of what something is. And this is, again, this part is entirely up to you what's most useful. Maybe you do want to give it an ID number and call it 2020-1, or, it's up to you guys, however best works for your institution. I found it super useful for Fairfield just for seeing what's going on. Actually, let me hop over to Fairfield for a second. So right now we've got 111 exhibitions listed. We've gone through and put in old, like had interns and stuff actually put in old exhibitions, just so we can see what our exhibition history is, what objects were in past exhibitions, and kind of create a record for that. Some of them up here, like we don't know when this heirloom quilts and coverlets thing went on. It was sometime in the 50s. As we find out more information, we can update that. But we'll go through and just be able to see the list by year if we want to just kind of put it in order. So back in 77, we did something on coins and also on costume and, just kind of things like that. Back to the sandbox. So the curatorial description, again, this is another one of those, and this whole module is just kind of however, use it however best works for you. The curatorial description, I usually put in the blurb from the exhibition, whether it be like the marketing blurb or like part of the opening panel, talking about what the exhibition is, just to kind of give a relatively brief idea of what the whole thing's about. Exhibition dates, standard. I'll usually put the open-close dates. If it's something that is ongoing, we've got an ongoing exhibition in Fairfield that's a semi-permanent. So I've got that as being 2010, open 2010 to present, something like that. Or even just open 2010, something like that works. The exhibition location, however you want to do it, that's a free text field, so it's not necessarily a location. So in this one, I'll put, sometimes I need to standardize it a little bit more because we do have currently named spaces like exhibition galleries. We just say North Gallery and South Gallery at the moment, and that's what I've normally been putting in. I should be putting in something like the Spate Gallery. And then I have put in like in parentheses, like South Gallery or something like that. But I'll put that there. Notes. It's just there for whatever you need. I've used them for a bunch of different things, which you'll see later when I get into a couple of our actual exhibitions. The relationships field is the same as all the other things. It's going to list a bunch of related other modules together. So related objects, so you'll see all the objects that are related to things, along with having over in this upper left, that 13 related objects. So when you click on that, it'll pull up that grouping of objects all together, which we'll look at too. One thing that I did do a while back, so we've got this like Burr Homestead Green Gardens. This is an image, it's a slide. We didn't actually exhibit the slide, or this is a fake one anyway, but I've done this partially because of these objects, these items in the collection. We didn't actually put the slide itself out. We used a derivative of it. It was a graphic in one of the panels. So I did add this little derivative used option. So you can go in and just say derivative used in, which is, I think, really helpful, especially in future years when you're tracking things. So you can say like, I don't remember having that thing, that broadside or that print out in the exhibit. No, it was part of the exhibit, but we used a, surrogate, we used an image of it versus the actual thing. So those you can now change to as you go through, and if you've got one. I just realized one of our World War I exhibit, I didn't do this until after that exhibit. So I need to go through and figure out which posters we actually put up versus which we were just using as graphics. But it's good to have a reference to that image being there. Especially because you all know we get people that come in and like, where's that image that I saw that was in that exhibit? And you're like, was it on a panel? Was it on a poster? Was it up? So we get related entities here, related loans. Here, the related loan parts is very useful. Admin info, the standard, the record status, complete editing in progress, new review in progress, and then accessible to the public and not. The record status, honestly, I'm using more and more lately just to track for myself, and I've got a volunteer coming in and doing records, and I have a lot. She's really using that button so I can go in and search where she is in the project, which has been really helpful. That's just kind of a good overall thing. This is also good for me too for more recent exhibits. So I know when I've finished adding everything that I need to for that exhibit. The access, not accessible to the public thing. This is going to be, and this has got the usual accessible and restricted public accessible. As we're working in the portal, I'm going to see how we might want to use this. I had discussed with Whirligig putting up exhibitions in there, and it wouldn't be the full exhibition with the panels and all that kind of stuff, just because there's not really a place for that here, but it would more just be like a snapshot view. It'd actually be more something like, I've got the summary of just, the title and that. And I haven't done any, different displays on the sandbox in this, but you could do a different display. He gave me an example of somebody that used it, and I honestly don't remember who it was. But when we talked about it with doing things for the portal, he's like, I don't know if we want to do this, but what it does for you is, and gave me this whole explanation. I'm like, you just talked me into it. I'm going to say, yes, let's do the exhibition thing. And as usual with everything else, if you want to make it public, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. But it would basically just be a summary. So let me flip to Fairfield. So we've got all of some of these past ones going in. I'm going to go to some of them are more recent to kind of look at a couple things. Because I wanted to look at, so we just did a John Taylor Arms exhibit. I didn't even, and I realized I didn't even put in the curatorial description yet, so I'm still working on this one. And we've got the dates, but I've got the, one thing I added to notes, and again, we'll use notes for everything, is I put in a copy of the loan request letter, because we did borrow from a number of institutions, including Westpac, thanks you guys. And she sent out like a lovely letter to everybody. I'm like, this is a perfect place to just save this in here. I have a loan note from where all the packing stuff's going to be. One thing I used the notes for too is to put the citation blurb right here, so I always know what I need for it. If I need to add it, or if I want to add it to an object or something, I just have it right there so I can copy it and paste it. Traditional format of, like a short and traditional format of naming the exhibition, the location, and the dates, which I don't know why this has like a little, the things you notice when you're doing things. There we go. So I can go in and copy that to anything. So the relationships here is interesting when we go in this, because you can see the objects that I have linked to it right now with their numbers. These were all actually in, so I don't have to use that derivative of. Don't have the related entities, but here's our list of loans that we got with my little shorthand names for how I name loans. But I can go in and see what the loan record is for that. Let me go to Westpac. And, with anything in this, you can click on one thing and get to something else. It's my loan identifier, the date in, the date out. I haven't filled in return date, but we know you got it back.
We have it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm usually really good about that too, because the signed paper will end up on my desk. The loan purpose, conditions, if anybody's got any extra conditions. I should go to one of the other groups because they had a bunch that I made a note of. Insurance values, the loans, I don't think I've done anything on, but this is a whole different, record in here that's very useful. Valuation notes, staff courier. We had a note saying, if it framed or needs frames and stuff like that. And our curator has a running Excel sheet of stuff that she's tracking, but this is good from my end to be able to track things too. I don't know if it'll let me go back to my exhibition. Yeah. We had something from RISD. Oh yeah, we had special, that's what it was. We had special handling instructions for her because of a stamp that was on one of the plates. So I made sure to put that right into the object. I don't usually enter loaned objects as objects into the system. I just never have. I'll put the list in of something. Yeah, here's our list of the items that we had with their record, their citations and things. I put a little running checklist for myself. I use the loans very actively, the loan module very actively. I don't use it very actively for the exhibitions part. Get back to exhibitions. You know, it's one of those, I could put a bunch of notes in there for exhibitions, but I'm also not the one that does the exhibition. So I'm just kind of doing the tracking part of it at the end part. Let me see. Okay. You know, so again, if you have a better use of like using notes and stuff for the exhibitions, that's fine. Let me go back. Actually, I did want to get to that one. I don't know if it'll let me down. Let's see. So for our 39 related objects, we used a lot of the posters and, you know, some objects, but a bunch of these. Oh, I actually wanted to stay where I was. I just need to go to related relationships. This is where I need to go. I know most of these posters were like a derivative use, so I need to go back and just check that and make sure I've got that fixed.
Can I ask a quick question here on why you've got that field up with the derivative versus the, so if you had something that was loaned to an exhibit, let's say that, you know, our work was loaned to that, but you had also an image that you wanted to use of ours that you used as a graphic, would you have included that external source object? Probably, you know, would you have referenced it there, or because that comes up a lot, you know, as we do interpretive panels and things, you know. So right. I mean, you're basically trying to track the ones you've internally used versus everything that you may have cited or referenced. Like for the Jane Taylor Arms, you had a reproduction of the guest book because you didn't have the actual guest book there. So would that have shown up as a derivative use in a loan?
I probably would not. I would not, just because I usually don't put outside things into the system. There's no reason you really couldn't, because there's so many fields in there that say, you know, what something is owned by and the source and all that. You know, there's no reason not to. We do have it tracked in our exhibitions records and in her spreadsheet. So if we ever needed to go through, and almost like I said with these, if someone's like, how about that thing? I saw the guest book, you know, where is it from? We can go back to our exhibition.
Or let's say the opposite example, if you had a loan, you know, or you have some, you know, we have a fresco, right? That can't be exhibited, but it's been reproduced in a catalog for an exhibition and was used in a graphic in an exhibition. So do you then try to track that in your exhibition module because it was part of that exhibition but only referenced derivatively?
If it's yours, I would.
Yeah, right.
If it's something else, I wouldn't. I only track.
Right. So that could be, and that field works in the loan module too, derivative and exhibited, or is it only in the exhibited?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't remember off the top of my head because it's been a while. So let's go back to something with a loan.
I just didn't know if that was a universal change that you've made with the exhibited derivative, or is it just in the exhibit model?
If it's exhibited, it might be, only because most of the things will go the other way. Like once you change something, it'll be equivalent for both. See, because when you do the objects that are in a loan, it'll have the relationship here. So let's go to, oh no, let's go to a loan. No, because I don't have the objects in.
All right, well, that's it.
Yeah, I would, you know, something, if it was, like if we had used one of your images in something, it would be tracked in the exhibitions thing. You know, there's no reason that I wouldn't make a note about it, maybe, but I know the details and the schedule are more into the exhibition. So I would be more likely to go look at that. Again, me.
That's okay. I don't want to, I mean, it was a question,
it's a good question
about those things interrelate, but I don't need to spend too much time on it.
But it may come up again, you never know. So if I go to this guy, So I think you can do it as, somebody make sure I don't save because I'm in the live database. Okay, you can. So if I'm saying that was used as a derivative, yeah, you can do it from here and it'll show up.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thanks.
And that's one of those that's actually not difficult to change if we have another thing. That's why I was able to go in and change it. And there was one that used to drive me crazy when we first started it, because it would call somebody in the loans thing, you would have lenders and borrowers, but it would come out as lent by or borrowed by or something, like not traditional what you would say. You would say somebody's a lender. You would not say somebody is a lender of, kind of thing. It was something like super fussy. And I changed that early on. So those like little relationship type explanatory things are relatively easy to tweak if we ever had something else that didn't, that came up. I do not want to save changes. Oops. Oh, I will say about, this is one of the things I wanted to say, because I wrote a bunch of notes to make sure that I remembered to like point out little things. I'm going to do that part after. One of the things I really like about that relationships part of this is it shows a lot of the different parts of the exhibition in there, and it's kind of the same with the objects. 35 objects. And being able to go through and see, do you want to look at floral? I don't want to look at flowers. I want to look at floral expressions. So here's all of our objects. When you go to the objects, it's kind of having that list of things in there. When you go into your relationships, it's nice to be able to go through and see which exhibits something is in, which is part of why I'm going through and doing the history and putting the old exhibitions in there. Should have said that at the beginning part. So now I can see that this one was in vogue and was in floral expressions. Mm-hmm. So also when I go to her record, I usually put, because we don't actually have a field for exhibition history, not that we won't at some point, I think we should. I've been putting it in notes and just adding a list of notes and doing it in the traditional, like most recent first. So that's why I have that little citation in the other thing. So I've got her in Vogue. However, I don't have her in floral expressions, which is funny. So I'm going to do proper work while we're talking and fix that and see why the reason is that I do the little blurb. And I did put, like in this instance too, I put a little note salad saying that the exhibition was held over for a longer time due to COVID museum closure. Because it was originally supposed to end much earlier, but the museum was closed half the time, and it was a great exhibition, and we really didn't want to like waste it, basically. We were going to kind of refresh it, maybe swap some costumes out, and then ended up figuring that they had been in the dark, they were pretty good shape and well supported, so we weren't going to bother to try. It would have been more disruptive to try to replace everything. So this is another place to where you can always for individual objects, you can always create a display that lists related exhibitions too. So we don't necessarily have the fields, but you could go in and create a list that kind of has that.
So on the location of an object, the exhibition, if it's ongoing, will be in that location. I mean, it'd be nice to look at that because we've seen that with a recent show we did with Mocha.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because that was one thing I wanted to put in my notes to remember to talk about. Yeah, she wasn't in there. Let me go to, because the location thing can sometimes be a little bit wonky. And it's a matter of the date that you enter things, and also if something has a home location and if you've returned it to the home location. So let me look at my favorite example, because you guys know, because you're always here, that I use my Alice exhibit for everything. Partially because it had a ton of objects in it, so it's a good example. I've put everything in, and I've usually updated everything. So Alice has 45 related objects. I am fairly certain there's still stuff that shows up as not being where it's supposed to be. Partially because I had not started doing, let me try that one. I had not started creating home locations for everything. I'm just kind of doing it on the fly. Not as, I'm not doing like going through each individual object and making sure it has a home location. If I'm looking at stuff for an exhibition and I'm going through, if I know that that's basically its home location listed, I'll put the home location in. Yeah, see, this pipe is still saying that it's in Alice. So if I go into the pipe record doesn't have a home location yet. And if you go into the locations part, you can see the history.
Right, there's that green box.
Yeah. So you'll get that green, it's something's in an exhibition. And it'll show up in that current location up top. So right now, the offsite location is technically its home location, because that's where it's gone back to. But I never put that in as the home location. Whereas you can, so also, like I could move it now and just say, add a relationship, add a related storage location. So that would come up and be the current location. My preferred thing would be to create the home location for it and then return it to the home location. So it does get a little fussy. I will say it's better than it was, and the locations setup is better than it was. So right now I've got the update location here. There is not a return to home location button because it doesn't have a home location yet. And I don't think, so usually if you changed it, like if I changed the thing to another location now, that would come up first and that would be fine. Just let me find it, because it's some weird box numbers. It's 511. So that's theoretically going to be its home location.
So do you, once you have you said that you use your sets for your planning, and that once and then you switch it over to the exhibition module. So once the exhibition is up and it's either current or past, do you then eliminate the set for that exhibition?
I haven't yet. I've usually held on to them. We're going to look at our sets, and you'll see there's 18 million different sets. Partially because I found it useful to go back sometimes. It really came in useful when we were doing our floral expression show with all the dresses, because we did have, I'm going to move this pipe back while I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to go return to home location, and I'm actually going to do it shortly after the close the exhibition, which was when November 17th, because I know that it went back. I'm going to say 2. See if that'll take that. Done that a couple times, and it doesn't take it the first time, but it'll do it like the second time. It's weird. I haven't quite figured this part out yet, and sometimes why it doesn't let you do the, oh, see, it's so weird. I don't know why it takes it. It won't take it the first time, but the second time I do exactly the same thing and it takes it. That's definitely a bug question that I have to ask them. So now this is showing that it's here at its home location. If I look in history, you'll still see that it was in Alice for a period of time. Yes? What's your question?
Hi. Yeah, this is related to location. So when we were doing the MoCA exhibit, I think Kathy set up the exhibition module before the show opened and put in the date, for when it was going to open. But then, throughout that whole fall before the show opened, the current location would show as on exhibit. Whereas it was still in its, pre-exhibit location. Is there a workaround for that, or is that just something we have to wait until closer to the date to?
It's very keyed on the exhibition dates. So I wouldn't put anything in that exhibition date until like the date of the opening. So like this one, Alice, was opened November 30th. So even if it's planning like a year ahead of time, don't put that date in, put the actual exhibition dates in, because it's totally keyed on that and we'll go by that.
Or put it in when it's transferred to that site, to that installation, because in this case it went to a different building. So once it moved to that location, that once the loan began, because it was a joint show. But that's important to know. That you don't do that date.
Yeah, because I would do the actual dates of the show if it's being shipped somewhere else. I would track that within the object or within the loan record and say that, and that's honestly too where the sets come in handy. So if you have everything as a set, like if I had an Alice set that was traveling, I could add that move date and say it was moved to the Worcester Art Museum's storage building in preparation for exhibit, and do everything all at once. And it would end up being in that, as long as you had some kind of a location hierarchy for it.
So that's kind of like our learning gallery, the learning gallery displays, Eva. I mean, how do they rotate as groups and mini exhibits through different sites. Sometimes they get dispersed or new things get added, but this is an important place to see that history of where they've been, when they were created and what was in them.
Let's see. Did I answer both of your questions / comments? Okay. But sets is what you reminded me I was going to talk about. So, so using the sets to go in and kind of plan an exhibit, and Kathy, your question was like, do I take some of the ones down? Part of the reason that I've found it useful to keep them up for a little while, let's go back to this. When we were going to do that floral expressions thing and redo all of the some of the dresses and kind of put something else up, it was actually super useful. And you can't plan for that. You can't plan that you might want to rotate because there's a pandemic. It was useful for us to go back and see what some of our rejects were. So we could go in and say like, oh, we were going to use this, so we could substitute this for the other one. So it was kind of useful. A couple of years down the road, I might get rid of it. Now I have to remember what I called this up now. Oh yeah, because it was originally Garden Party. And we had a bunch of stuff in there. We had a bunch of dresses. We had some graphics. We had a bunch of other, like pressed flowers, a lot of photos and things that we were talking about. So I've kind of left those in, as a possible looking through. I should get back to the other list. Because Alice in Museumland, that's pretty much where the set ended up. There was an edited batch that I think I added to everything. The other one is our big semi-permanent exhibit is getting a huge redo over the winter. So that one was one that I definitely wanted to go back and look and see what was in it. I created, let's see, I have like the original Creating Community set of everything that's in there. Then we went through and had, I basically duplicated this set or did the same set so I could go back and like edit what we had, and we can take out what we don't want and what we do want. And I don't know if they'll come on. Actually, let me go back to this. So this is like a work in progress at the moment. So it's super easy to go in and, you know, I can add to things, curator can add to things, or curatorial assistant can add for things. We're doing that with aspect of it now too. So I've got Creating Community all, Creating Community, this is the ongoing updated revision. Right now, this is the Creating Community 2.01 was our last kind of update. And then we've also got, we had Cabinet of Curiosities. So there's going to be one little aspect in the front that we're just trying to go through and add some just like fun things and cool things for people to look at. Oh, that's a good idea. So all of us, as we're coming across things, are just adding it to this set. And it's working really well for that now. And it worked really well in the past when we had 3 of us kind of throwing ideas out. So it's not linking it to the exhibit, which you can always like take it out of the exhibit if you use that for ideas. But this was just kind of a much easier, more fluid way to be able to do it and to go through and search for these. So these are some of the things that, you know, might go in our Cabinet of Curiosities at the moment. Oh, that's a good idea too. And some of these I haven't seen yet because it's being added by a couple other people. So it's kind of nice to go in and see what they're looking for too. And if you really wanted to, depending on how you're doing it, you can move things around in priority on these. So if you're going through and, you know, think the eel spear is like the most important thing and you really need to move that to the top of the list, you can kind of bump that up a little bit. So you can see like, oh, I added to the list, look at the top 5. It's really cool. I don't really need to save that. So the basic info part for the sets is, you know, really not much. It's about as many fields. It's actually probably more fields than the exhibition fields. And you guys know you've been using the sets for like the gallery and put that up there for, you know, accessible, not accessible. That will be expanded in the portal upgrade too. So there's not really as much of a notes field in this one. But you can always put notes in other places too when you're using it.
I have a question about the larger exhibition management because, you know, you've got, you know, there's all, I mean, this is the registrarial file for the exhibition. And yes, you've got a curator that's managing, you know, the paperwork and as co-managing with you. But when, in the end of the day, this needs to be the record, right? So, there's media associated with, you know, and there are loan forms associated with things. And, you know, we all might manage them on a server, but in the end of the day, if you have an exhibit or you have something that you're bringing in to supplement that might be from a private collection or a public collection, and it's that related loan, where does the, you know, you had the loan, so where does that related media go? Where does the executed loan form go? Where does the, you know, where do those records for those things, whether it's an exhibition you're managing or an object that you're also lending to another place, because do you just upload it into the media and make it private? And is there any way to connect it to this larger exhibition module? Because that is an important part of the paperwork management is, you know, insurance, you know, COIs, you know, all of that stuff. Where does that live in this world of collections access and exhibition management?
That is an excellent question, Kathy, and I'm glad you asked that. You know, it's that's one of the things about this exhibitions module. Like I started off saying, it's very simplified. So, which is the good part of tracking it. It doesn't have a place for all that media being added in, like documenting all of your exhibition photos and your input and all that. And I'm not opposed to adding that at some point. Speaking for Fairfield, our exhibition files and folders are so, like, not on here, but on our server and stuff, are so packed with so much stuff. For us, I would rather leave it there, but I can totally see wanting to have everything like in the system. And because even through the process of writing and researching and the stuff we find out about things, there could be research stuff attached to an object or gone through. There's not really a good place here if you wanted to keep track of exhibition scripts. There's not really a good place, and that's another one of those, I don't know, this is the place for that.
I was thinking more, yeah, I know, because it's like
you're thinking like loan forms and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Alice,
it's the paperwork, it's all those related, or the PDFs of the final, the exhibit, right? I mean,
or even maybe even pictures showing, what the exhibition looked like.
Yeah, installation photographs.
Yeah.
I am not necessarily opposed to honestly adding a media aspect to every single module in here, including entities, including loans, including exhibitions. I want to bring something like that to honestly our advisory committee, and even do a little poll of members to see what they think. Because in general, we try not to police this and make people do it like the way that we want to do it. But I would like to have that as an option, but I worry about people going to the extreme with a lot of things and being like, that's not what this is for, but you just used it to put your whole entire exhibition script and all of your panel PDFs and all of this stuff here. And I'm not questioning and just saying like, feel free.
I think there's a hierarchy to the information and the data, but
Right.
for an organization like ours with multiple, we don't have a home base, right? So it's like this becomes that, but also it's come up with, related to this is, like appraisals and, all of that kind of thing that is not necessarily information that we have uploaded to our media, just our general media with photography. So, we can do loan forms to that too, just as a workaround. But those are also things, once we've given certain access levels that are still there. And then it's better for them to be directly tied to the record than in a third party, third location.
Right.
And, but
so
having some sort of distinct media file.
Sometimes some places there are aspects to have that linked to, like the appraisals. There is a place for appraisals that you can link documents. So if you go, is it conditions? No,
I don't think you can link documents that we know of.
I might be wrong. I might be thinking.
It'd be great if you could upload a document right there, but there's not.
Yeah, you can't. So, honestly, and that's another thing. So I'm coming from TMS. You could link every single part of everything. So I am coming from that system where you can do it. So my first instinct is to go, oh my God, we need to put all of this in. And I'm not necessarily opposed. It's just a matter of putting it on the list of things that we want to update and improve and all that, and just say, sure, we can add a media part of this. We can add media to entities. Not at all opposed to that. That's something we'd have to go around. It's partially thinking of and I don't see a downside, because it's partially thinking of would this be useful to everybody? Would everybody be able to use this? I honestly don't see a downside to that. I 100% think that it can be nothing but useful to people, because I would like to have, I thought there was a place for the appraisal here, and there is not. So it'd be something you would have to attach through regular media, which, like you said, not necessarily findable if it's just crammed in with all the other media. I honestly would like to see media become its own module. My definite worry with that one is that becomes a little bit hard for some people to wrangle. And just having more of the direct connections would be useful. But if you're just adding it to this and you're pulling up just the certain record, I don't necessarily see a bad way of doing that. For some of this, because those kind of records are not public access, would not be public access, valuations and that kind of thing. There's honestly not a reason we couldn't just add a media part to your guys' thing. I don't like to do offshoots of instances, so not everybody's matching, but honestly, we could do that in the meantime before we make a system-wide change and just add media to your guys' thing so you'd be able to do it. Since you do have the need, like you said, you don't have a home base, so there's not like you have a big server that you're dealing with like I am, where I've got all of my old records and stuff. That's definitely something to talk about, and I'll talk to Amherst about it and see. We're planning an advisory committee meeting, hopefully this fall, later this fall. And that might be something to talk about too, about what other things do we need? Because I do have an ongoing list of stuff that I need things to go over that we want to add on at some point. And honestly, right now is the time to add a lot of this because they're doing such major work on the system. But if I just slip in a couple more things here and there, it's not that bad because he's already doing all kinds of stuff. I did just
Will you present on what those changes are going to be at some point in the near future?
Oh, yes. Yeah. When I get, so, I mean, honestly, I don't know how best would be presented. Maybe it might be honestly like an office hours thing. Because I wouldn't at all mind going over what some of the updates to the public portal are going to be. It's a lot of stuff that people have asked for. It's some of the stuff that we've seen and asked for. I don't know if it's useful to do it now or to go through it once there's like a beginning iteration to see of it so people can get a better idea. I don't know what's easier. And actually, this is a good time. Scott had been asking about some of the system improvements, and if there was stuff that they have, that you guys have to really add to the system. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure if you've told me, I've got it on my list. But obviously, I never mind hearing it again because I like to know that I've got all the bases covered and I haven't forgotten anything. So
maybe on that, Eva and Kathy, maybe we can revisit our list of issues, and I can send the link out, and then maybe I'll send that to Diane.
I'd send it ASAP. And I think I might have said it in the last one too. Anything at all that you have now, send it to me now, like ASAP, since they're actively working on it. And I know there's not anything that's anyone's brought up that's a huge change that would cause a lot of havoc. But I'd rather give it to them early so they know something's coming versus them saying, here's our first view. And I go, oh no, but we needed to add all this. Yeah. I should do just a Google document and share it with everybody and be like, here, just add to this as you go. But yeah, send me whatever you have. I don't think I don't have it right here. I have it in my Google Drive. Like what I had listed to them. Part of the main thrust of this portal project and the grant that we got is to add the archival collections. So, but as part of that, we're kind of skating in with this. In order to do this, we need to rebuild our whole entire website. So that's why we're taking as much, pain over trying to get in as much as we can of all the stuff that people have been asking for. Because I can also share with you guys what I have on my list so far. I won't give you the whole, I don't know that I have the whole narrative of our meeting about what we were talking about that would make sense, but I can give you like the bullet point list and see if that makes sense to you guys too. So you can look at it and be like, oh, you did think of this.
Yeah, why don't we'll go back and forth, share both documents. Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, that works for me. And then I can make sure, because I'm basically communicating with them right now, like as things come up. And there's one thing like I need to ask them about, because I was going through checking what people had in there for archival collections a week or two ago to see what they were doing. And somebody I noticed had changed a lot of their like related fields, like their entity related types. And I need to make sure that that's not going to throw a gum into the works for the system going forward, because they're rewriting basically what's our connector. Like they aggregate all of the public access stuff into one backend instance, like one backend public instance, and then that's what gets pushed to the web. So that's where if something doesn't fit in, that's where it gets wonky. And that's where it's kind of any of the public access fields, everybody has to match. So otherwise it'll hold stuff up and stuff may not get up onto the portal. And nobody will know why. And I actually have to take off at 11 today. Do you have any questions about anything else at the moment? Everybody good for now?
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. All right. So I will put it.
Would you ever do a module on conservation records and tracking and reporting?
Right now, there's not a whole. There's not a plan for a whole module. I mean, there's that page is in there for the records, but we haven't really talked about doing a whole module for it. Not necessarily off the table. It's a good suggestion
or an
do.
office hours on it, but for managing it within the framework of what's here.
Oh no, that's a good idea. I could definitely do that because I need ideas for office hours because I'm.
We have the
running
ideas. Don't worry.
Oh no, keep telling me because I'm running out, and I keep going back to my Minnesota person who we always compare notes. And I look at what she's doing for office hours because I'm hoping to steal ideas, and we're both doing the exact same things. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do next time.
No, conservation records would be because we've been scanning them all and need to upload those treatment reports to the record. So,
and one of the limiters right now is you can only upload one thing to those records. So if you've got 10 pages. You can't upload all 10 pages. It has to go into the regular object record, which is what I did for some of my stuff. And that's kind of the question is, when does the workaround become, this shouldn't be a workaround, this should be an actual part of the system. So, and that's a good example of it because, conservation treatment records, all that can be pages and pages and pages. So when does it become, there's actually a need, we really need to expand this further. So I don't think she's got one in Minnesota. I should ask her. I think she's got the same thing we do of like the basic conservation part of it. So.
Thank you. I have to hop off because I have an 11 o'clock call, but thanks so much. Yeah. This was great. Nice seeing you too.
Oh, good seeing you. And I have to run too because I have to go meet people for lunch. So.
Thank you.
I have to go meet Rich Malley for lunch. So, okay. We will talk to everybody later. I hopefully see you next month for next month's schedule. And this will be a little bit before it gets up on the recordings because I will have to edit a little bit and then put it up. So,
okay.
Do you know what you're going to do next month, Diane?
I do. It should have been in the, I was going to say it should have been in the newsletter, but I don't remember if I put it in the if I figured that out before or after I put the newsletter out. Hold on, let me look. I know I'm doing copyright like in December. And I changed it around.
Oh, yeah, I got, okay, yeah, it's in there. Sorry.
I already did have that one.
It's
that's okay. Now I need to know what it is.
Lots and accession records.
Oh, that's right. Yep, lots and accession records. Then the archive basics. If you haven't signed up for Archives 101, go sign up for Archives 101.
And then copyright.
Yep. Which copyright should be interesting, and it won't just be. Yeah, hopefully there'll be some changes by then and some updates with that. But yeah. That should be fine. Yeah, go sign up for Archives 101, partially because there'll be, Okay, good, because there'll be an traveling archivist program coming up that people will be able to apply for. Hopefully they'll be sending out the announcement about that soon. That if you need to, I don't know necessarily for you guys at Westpac, but
Yeah, I'm just hoping that maybe we'll pick out a couple tidbits that might be useful.
yeah. But if
that
you
core archive.
Yeah. But if anybody needs to really get a better handle on like a huge amount of archives, or even just like whatever they have for archives and just don't know where to start, you'll be able to have a traveling archivist come to your site, go through things, help you out. And it's more than just like the quick cursory visit. They'll be out, I forget how many times. But in order to apply for that, you need to do the Archives 101 thing. So, okay. Everybody have a lovely day.
Bye.
And I will see you next month. Bye-bye.